light, or love, God, source, mind. Love is a word that is synonymous with this energy of the divine. It's everywhere present. It's within us. It just is. And sometimes, if you see, love is just, it exists all by itself. The problem is that so often, like the lyrics in this song, we try to figure it out, right? We try to describe it. You cannot bottle it. You can't really grab onto it. You can't contain it. You can't collect it. You can't demand it. Have you ever tried to demand that somebody love you? It doesn't work very well. I see lots of people who've been through more than one marriage that understand how that works. You can't buy love. You can't, it just is. You can't bottle it up, collect it, and save it for later. It doesn't work that way. Love is. And the idea that we're going to be working with today is the idea that we can cultivate our remembrance that we are that love by being willing to do the practices and the processes and the remembrance that helps us open our hearts. Because I don't know about you, but sometimes I feel like my heart is pretty shut down. When I look at the news, I want to guard myself from that, yes? When I'm in difficult relationships, all of a sudden, something happens and that, it's like I want to protect myself from love, from whatever that is. I don't want to get damaged by that thing. And so breaking open the loving heart allows us to actually be present with the whole catastrophe, with all of it. I love what Sharon Salzberg says, as I was saying, using her book, Loving Kindness. She says that our work is to cultivate the capacity to respond to life so that whatever life presents us, our expression, our response comes from the heart of love. No matter what shows up. Now this is hard. This is not always easy because sometimes life doesn't look very pretty. Yes? Sometimes it looks downright yucky, icky. But when we've got the capacity to embrace it all, and then to have whatever our expression is, the expression of our divinity, come from that place of love, this is where love becomes real in the world. The vibration can go ahead then and be released into the world, and then we become that. We become that field of energy. And so David Rico, 5 things, many of you are studying the 5 things we cannot change in our book study, but David Rico says, and this is true, and I don't think, if you don't take anything else from today's talk, this is important. He says, our spiritual destiny is to love as many beings as there are, for as long as we're alive, in our own unique way, to our full capacity. That's our job. Our job is to love as many beings as we can, as long as we're alive, in our own way, to our full capacity, as much as we can bring forth. And that's what we're talking about today, breaking open that capacity to bring that love forth all the time. Because every single one of us has a potential to be loved and to be loving and to be lovable in the world. And when we know that, when we actually know that being loving is not reserved for some people, like saints, like Mother Teresa, like realized beings. Every single one of us has a capacity to be a loving presence. You know why? Because we're all filled with the same divine stuff. None of us get more than anybody else. We've all got the same amount. And so it's not just some of us that can be loving and kind. It's all of us. It's all of us. And by the way, it's not just some of us that are lovable. It's all of us. Every single one of us has the capacity to be loving and to be lovable. And sometimes it doesn't feel that way, yes? I was thinking about my own journey, and I'm thinking, there are a few exceptions. I got work to do. I gotta be honest. I have to be honest, open, authentic, and with integrity. I got a few places I need to work on, yes? But guess what? When I work at the idea of breaking open the loving heart, I can love anyway. Even though I don't like them so much. I can love anyway, see, no matter what. I can push that reset button. This is, you didn't do a very good job right now. You're not being very loving right now, but you can try again. You can push the reset button. You can try again. You can have a do-over. I love the idea that nothing, if I could actually live this for myself and with others, I would just be, probably I won't be here anymore, I don't think. But nothing you can say or do will make me stop loving you. That's not too hard. I can really work on that. Nothing you can say or do will ever make me stop loving you. Have you ever had a really difficult relationship where you don't think there's enough love to go around and you just want to stop loving that person? That's kind of my situation with my exception. I've got to get past that. Yeah, but that thing that you do really pushes my button. Yeah? Nothing you can say or do will make me stop loving you. And here's a bigger challenge. Nothing that has ever happened, nothing I've ever done, nothing I've ever thought can make me unlovable. That's a big one. That's a big one. Because sometimes we have the sense that we're damaged, that we're not lovable, that there's something wrong with us. And this also is about opening the loving heart. Because if we can't love ourselves first and best, we're going to have a hard time accepting and loving anybody that's not us, the other. And so this idea that nothing that other people can say or do can ever make me stop loving them. Most everybody. And I'm working on it. And nothing that's ever happened in my life can make me unlovable. That's a real big one, because a lot of people go around feeling very unworthy, unlovable, like they're damaged. So this idea, I don't see, there were quite a few people at our visioning process the other day, and I'm not seeing the person I'm going to talk about, but so I'm not going to use a name. But when we were doing our visioning, this idea of breaking open the loving heart is so important, because as this person was visioning with us, we were using the Michael Beckman visioning process. After we did our visioning, she shared and she said, I got guidance. I got guidance. And she's been through some tough stuff, some feelings of unworthiness, some difficult things. And she said, I got guidance that my heart's been outside my body. My heart's out there somewhere. And I got guidance that I have to have the courage and not be afraid to bring it back home, to bring it back in and let love touch me deeply. Do you understand? Has anybody else been there where your heart's out there somewhere because it doesn't feel safe enough to let it come home and reside within? The courage to be vulnerable enough to allow that to happen, that's pretty big. And when we can remember that and allow that to happen, it changes everything. So some of us have our hearts way out there, and it's about breaking open that loving heart and bringing it back home. Remember the Tin Man in The Wizard of Oz? What was his problem? He didn't have a heart, right? The Tin Man forgot to give him a heart. He was hollow. Ever feel hollow? Did you ever feel hollow? I only had a heart. Sometimes life feels so harsh and so difficult that it's really hard to fire up that heart. And in my one exception, I think I'm hollow in that one little piece of my life where I'm having trouble firing up my love quotient for that situation, that person. We feel hollow, and sometimes we've got so much wounding, so much pain that we've got a lot of hollow in us. So our hearts are out there. We feel like our heart is, like we're empty, like we don't have a heart. If I only had a heart. And in the metaphor of the Tin Man, guess what? He's rigid, isn't he? He's stuck, he's rigid. This is what happens when we feel that hollowness of not being able to find that heart within us. And so then I picked this image up here because, see, I think that we do all of it. Sometimes our hearts are out there floundering and we need to bring them back home. Sometimes we feel a hollow place where we can't find the heart, we can't find the love, maybe for ourselves or for others. And then sometimes we've got our heart guarded like that little guy. We got it in a box. Yeah, but don't mess with me. Don't mess with my heart, see? We're guarded, we're defended. We keep our heart in a safe little box because it feels better. It feels comfortable, right? It feels safe. We don't want to let it out because who knows what would happen, right? And so this invitation to allow ourselves to be loving, to allow ourselves to be vulnerable enough, to trust life is a big, big invitation because it takes courage. A lot of times our hearts are so darn constricted and so narrow that we start seeing the world in a certain way. You know what I mean? And sometimes, and I think this is the case for the gal that had the vision about needing to bring her heart back home, sometimes, and the Sufis tell us this, sometimes God enters through the broken heart. It takes the shadow to have the heart open up. And so we've got to honor all of it. We've got to be willing to be present with it all. Again, as in the opening reading, Sharon Salzberg says, love and loving are very real. And they're not destroyed, no matter what's happened, no matter how many mistakes we've made, no matter how much pain we've caused, no matter how much suffering there is out there or within, love remains. It just is what it is. And so I want to close with a story that I love. I've told it before. If you've been coming around for a while, you'll understand this is what breaking a loving heart open looks like in reality. This is a story about the Dalai Lama and the dog boy. This is a story about, it's a true story. It's that Dalai Lama was called to India. There was a child that was found in the forest, and he'd been living with a pack of dogs. And he had very canine behavior. He didn't speak. He walked on all fours. He couldn't stand upright. He couldn't eat with his hands. And so all the professionals, the doctors, the social workers, the speech therapists, the behavior therapist, everybody had come together in this group, and they invited the Dalai Lama to come while they made their presentations on what the heck are we going to do with this child, right? What are we going to do? Child was about 4 or 5, 6, somewhere in that range, crawling on all fours and had very, very canine behavior. His little eyes were darting all over, and he was simply terrified. Imagine yourself being an alien in the world, so to speak, and coming into a big gathering of all these people and having everybody presenting ideas about who you are and how you should be in the world, and you don't understand a thing about it. The Dalai Lama was sitting there, and the child was terrified. The child they brought the child to the Dalai Lama, and what he did, and this is how we break open the loving heart. We stay very aware, we stay very open, we allow ourselves to be vulnerable, we take the less traveled path, and so he began petting the child's head. He petted the child's head, he stroked the child's shoulders, the child immediately began to calm down. The child immediately soothed himself, curled up in a little ball at the feet of the Dalai Lama, and was at peace. Now, did they fix the darn thing? No. No. But this is the thing. The Dalai Lama communicated from the heart. The Dalai Lama knew what that child needed. We know instinctively how to bring love to our experiences. The Dalai Lama knew the language of the heart because he is a person who lives with an open heart. This is our job, to live with an open heart, to remember that we get to respond to life with a loving heart no matter what it looks like, how it comes to us. If it's a little child that doesn't fit the mold, we get to be the one that brings forth the language of love in that experience. David Rico, our destiny is to love as many people as we can for as long as we're alive in our own unique way to the very best of our ability. And then, if everything else fails, be sure to hang on to that mantra. Nothing that I can say or do will ever make me unlovable. And if I know that about myself, I can know for you that nothing you ever say or do will make me stop loving you. Thank you for listening.